Hey everyone, this is the Black Manga Critic here with another video for the channel. Now basically this is going to be an informal discussion as to why I believe that Emma is the best protagonist to come out of Weekly Shonen Jump magazine. Not sort of the best, not, the best, I mean the best protagonist to come out of Weekly Shonen Jump magazine, bar none. So, before I get into the 3 reasons, just wanted to say that, you should like, comment, and subscribe. If you're a new subscriber, well, not if you're a new subscriber, but if you're new to the video, hit the notification bell button when you do, and like the page on Facebook, and follow me on Twitter if you haven't done that already. So, the 3 reasons that I want to get into, in terms of why Emma is the best character to come out of Weekly Shonen Jump is 1, the fact that Emma is a girl. This is extremely important. I don't care what any of y'all say, it's extremely important. 2, the fact that she's able to not only compartmentalize her emotions, to an extreme degree, but she is also allowed, I think, to have a complex range of emotional states, right? This is also extremely important. 3, the fact that the arcs, particularly the Gracefield, right, the Gracefield House arc, and this sort of escape arc that we're in now, allow Emma to grow as a character. This, again, is extremely important, and in general, I'm just going to be talking about those 3 things. So, if we want to get into the first thing, the fact that Emma is a girl, we have to talk about the fact that, if you are a character, and particularly a protagonist in a magazine that is geared towards boys, right, and teenage boys, this is one of the best things to happen just for, people, and particularly women and girls who are looking, for characters like Emma in Weekly Shonen Jump. This isn't to say that women or girls don't already have characters that they really love in Weekly Shonen Jump, right? Clearly, there are people who love Nami, people who love Big Mom, people who love characters from Kentucky Hitman Reborn, people that love characters from Bleach, people that love characters from Naruto. You know what I mean? So, and the list goes on and on. But if we're talking about protagonists, characters that are at the forefront of a manga, and particularly a Weekly Shonen Jump manga, this is huge. If we look at the pantheon of Weekly Shonen Jump and just its catalog, I'm pretty sure that if I looked at it, even after this video, the amount of women that are at the forefront of the manga that have been created for Weekly Shonen Jump are slim to none. I would even bet that there aren't any. And that's not some people would say that that's not insane because they're sort of gearing towards young boys. But I've said this in another video that just because Weekly Shonen Jump is a magazine for boys does not mean that that magazine has the right to never put a girl at the forefront of said magazine. It's just it's a very sexist thing to do. Right, you know what I mean? It's a really regressive, super Stone Agey old school way of doing things. And if we're looking at Emma as a girl, that's important for not only for sort of the magazine to sort of showcase hey, this is something that they can do in the future, right? But it also says that women and girls who are looking for particular protagonists like Emma in a Weekly Shonen Jump magazine can come to Weekly Shonen Jump for those protagonists, right? And if we're talking about the fact that Emma is a girl, the aesthetic, right? Pasuka, I think, this is one of the reasons why I adore Pasuka as an artist and I adore Shirai as a manga. Because they could have easily said, let's do the creepo lolly thing and, make her a character, sort of what, I don't know the manga for, Boruto, but what they kind of did with Sarada and one of these weird sort of pedophile-y pictures where they had her in a really short sort of skirt ninja outfit, and it was mad creepy. But they didn't do that with Emma. What it did with Emma is they said her aesthetic only matters so much so that we get the fact that they live in the Gracefield house. All of them sort of wear a similar uniform, things of that nature, right? We don't really need Emma to have tits because she doesn't need to have tits. What would the purpose of that be, right? She doesn't need to have thick lips or anything like that. She doesn't need to have super long hair or anything like that. She doesn't, you know what I mean? She doesn't need to have a short skirt, because all that stuff would be creepy if we were looking for that. You know what I mean? So I appreciate that. I appreciate the fact that she is a girl. We know that she's a girl. It's very clear that she's a girl, right? Because they tell us, and that's all we need to know. All we need to know is that they tell us that Emma's a girl. That's it. And I appreciate that. So that as a protagonist in Weekly Shonen Jump, she is not defined by her aesthetic in a detrimental way. So if we're gonna get into the second thing, and this is also like an extremely important thing when it comes to why Emma is the best sort of character protagonist to come out of Weekly Shonen Jump. We have to talk about the fact that time and time again, Shirai and Pasuko have allowed Emma to not only express a wide range of emotions, but compartmentalize those emotions. Every time Emma is dealing with a particular sort of occurrence, right? Maybe someone has died, or someone is particularly, you know, intense in how they're acting towards her or something like that. Or, you know, some event occurs. She might be angry. She might be sad. She might be she might feel defeated. She might feel confused, right? She might feel, you know, super joyful. And she's able to feel all of these things. Sometimes she feels some of these things at the same time. I've never seen something like that from any Shonen Jump character, right? And like in terms of being able to feel multiple emotions, right, at the same time. I've never seen that. I've never seen Gon feel multiple emotions at the same time. I've never seen Gon feel, you know, well, no, Gon is, actually I have seen Gon do something like that, but not to the extent that Emma's able to. Like Emma's has been able to do that multiple times. The only thing that Gon, if I can remember, that Gon has able to sort of been able to do is to feel fear and excitement at the same time. But that's like something that like most shonen protagonists I've seen at some one point or another have been able to do. So it's not really a big deal. But Emma sometimes is able to feel like joy and sadness at the same time. Sometimes she's able to feel very deep regret and you know and joy at the same time. Like stuff like that has happened time and time again. And this is extremely important because in a Weekly Shonen Jump manga, right, most of the protagonists aren't really allowed to have that extreme range of emotions. And also, they're not allowed to compartmentalize their emotions in the way that Emma consistently does. Maybe Emma does feel multiple emotions at the same time, right? But because of the setting, she is not really allowed to, you know, just sort of dive into those emotions and sort of let them take over and let them wash over her, you know, for fear of repercussions for doing that, right? We've seen time again, when Emma does get into sort of like a, you know, really intense sort of angered state, she has to compartmentalize that anger, because if she doesn't, she won't be able to, you know, help her family escape from the Grace Field House, right? And she won't be able to beat Isabel and all these other things. So I think that that's huge for a character. Whenever we're reading Weekly Shonen Jump magazine, magazine manga, most of the time, if a character does compartmentalize their emotions, it's very shallow. And the one thing that I can think of is someone like Gon, who's like, I'm okay now. When it's clear, like, you know, like when clearly he's like, you know, dealing with a very like deep-seated rage, and he's barely, you know, holding on, like, you know, to his sanity and things of that nature. So that's like one of the few times where I can really remember a protagonist from a Weekly Shonen Jump manga, you know, even attempt to compartmentalize their emotions. If we're talking about the third thing that makes Emma the most important protagonist to come out of Weekly Shonen Jump, we have to look at the fact that the Grace Field House arc and the Escape arc are constructed in such a way that Emma not only has to grow as a character, right, and develop as a character, but it really sort of organically allows her to do so, right? So if we're looking at the Grace Field House arc, we can see that Shirai has constructed this arc in such a way that Emma not only has to, you know, grow and develop as a character, but she has to interact with other characters to foster said growth, right? If we're looking at like a lot of other Weekly Shonen Jump manga, usually that growth happens through battle. And like, you know, like sometimes the interactions that Emma will have are battles in a sense, but Weekly Shonen Jump like manga, tend to have battles as like the only place, or the training arc or something like that, as the only place where these characters can actually develop their emotional range and thought processes and things like that, and how they feel about the world that they are situated in. But if we're looking at Emma, sometimes we'll just have a conversation, and those conversations speak volumes. Not only in the Gracefield, right, in the Gracefield house arc, right? Maybe she's having a conversation with Don and Gilda about how she's not forthcoming about particular like information, and that's important because it allows Emma to say that, oh, like, I have to think about why I'm not forthcoming about these particular bits of information, and then I have to go about, you know, growing as a character so that I can be forthcoming, and so that I can make sure that I don't make that particular mistake again in the future, right? But we do see that, like, even after that particular conversation, we do see that she still sort of continues to sort of withhold particular like information about like how she's feeling and things like that. So it is the fact that like not only does she grow as a character and develop as a character, but she has relapses, and I think that that's something that like makes her a well-rounded character. Well-rounded characters, you know, not only need to grow and develop, but they need to sort of be able to make mistakes and to be able to say like, okay, like, I can learn, but I can also, you know, make those mistakes and remember that I have learned about this thing, or I have, you know, made this mistake before. And, you know, like, stuff like that is really, really important. And you don't see a lot of that in Weekly Shonen Jump characters. Weekly Shonen Jump characters, you know, may learn something, but that lesson, like, is totally forgotten about in, like, other arcs. You know what I mean? Like, so stuff like that, I think is really, really sort of important in terms of why Emma is such a great protagonist and is the best protagonist to come out of Weekly Shonen Jump. So if we're also talking about the sort of escape arc, right? We see that, like, you know, what I just sort of mentioned, like the fact that Emma, you know, didn't tell individuals that like she was sick, and that you know, the fact that she cut off her ear was, you know, well, her left ear was like bothering her. Like, stuff like that is really important because like it's not only important to Emma's growth as a character and development as a character, but it's also important to just like how she's going to be interacting with the landscape, right? Because if she's sick and she's, you know, not forthcoming about being sick, she's not going to be able to traverse a landscape, and then that's going to affect her family because they rely on her because of her emotional range and because of her ability to compartmentalize her emotions, right? Like, so stuff like that is all really important. You don't see a lot of that stuff in Weekly Shonen Jump manga. That's just like, you know, basic facts. Like, if you want to, you know, talk to me about how you do see that in other protagonists in Weekly Shonen Jump, feel free to, you know, talk to me in the comment section. Feel free to talk to me on Facebook. Feel free to talk to me on Twitter. But I think those three things are extremely important, right? And, you know, just like for a quick final thing, if we want to talk about, you know, like, look at Ray and Norton. Like, look at Ray. Like, Ray's clearly a protagonist, but Emma clearly has more, I think, emotional range in certain ways. She's just a better character, right? Like, in a general sense. So that's why you always see her on the front of like a Weekly Shonen Jump magazine, you know, and it's always her face, and it's not Ray's face necessarily or Norman's face necessarily. She's always at the forefront. That's huge. So that's basically all I'm going to say about why I feel that Emma is such a wonderful character. And like I said, you know, this is just an informal discussion. If, you know, maybe I said something that you didn't agree with or something like that, feel free to talk to me about it. I'm an open dude. So this is the Black Manga Critic with another video for the channel, and I'm out.